Oh, happy Friday, everybody, and holy moly, what an episode. That was, I've watched it twice already. Watched it originally at about quarter after midnight last night here at Pacific time, and that's because when I tried to go on immediately, Disney Plus was having some issues. I guess too many people were trying to get on at the same time. But then again, when I did get to watch it, it was just kind of jaw dropping. Um, in a lot of ways, expected, in a lot of ways, unexpectedly, but let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. I almost feel like I should leave this up for the whole episode. Um, yeah, that was quite the episode. Huh. All right, so I'm going to leave that up for another few minutes and then we'll drop that. But we're going to get into the episode pretty quickly here. Feel free to jump in and comment. I will try to respond as I go, but I want to try to get through the description of the episode first. So the episode's called Breaking the Fourth Wall, and that's probably the most appropriate title yet. We've moved into the Modern Family era, so it has that feel of the show with the house setup, the talking to the camera, the asides like they're being interviewed for a documentary, the mockumentary setup. All of that has been brought in. And the story takes place pretty much right after last episode, like all these have. It's just pounding through the series. No big deal. So, yeah, absolutely just moving forward. Now, the first thing you notice that we start off with Wanda laying in bed is that she's alone. There's no Vision there. And we even see her touch the side of the bed and she's kind of surprised. And then it kind of clicks in her head, what the hell just happened? So, yeah, she's starting to get in her head what happened. And I think the realization, it was almost like the morning after a drunken party is how she's playing it. And of course, that's not what happened, but that's how she's playing it. But it's got the cutaways, and she refers to, we've all been there. We've had that kind of night where we accidentally extend the barriers of the false reality we've created. And that's the first time that she acknowledges that it's a false reality and that she created it. So that's kind of interesting right there. Now, from there, we go on to the kids coming upstairs. And they're complaining because they're trying to play their video game and the controllers keep changing. And it goes from like modern controllers to older to Atari 2600 with the one red button and the joystick to just a hand of Uno cards. So I thought that was pretty funny. Also, Billy complains that his head hurts and it's just very noisy. And there's a theory that popped up for me that what he's hearing is the subdued thoughts of the people of Westview, the people who are under Wanda's power. It's their thoughts, their screams, or whatever it is, and that comes up later on, which is why I think that's true. That Billy is tapping into the minds of all the people around him, but not their current thoughts, their subdued thoughts, or the thoughts like Norm when he got brought out of it. Those thoughts, those are the ones that I think Billy is tapping into. When we get the credits, it's interesting. I don't know what. I'm not up on modern sitcoms, so if that is right from Modern Family or if it references a modern sitcom, I don't know. But it is obvious that everything is Wanda, not WandaVision. Wanda. And the word vision doesn't come in until the very end, which kind of fits the episode too. So this is a very Wanda-centric episode. She even talks about in her aside that she's going to do a quarantine-style staycation where she's just going to spend the day to herself. And that's her punishment for what she had done. Now, I'm not sure why she feels she needs to punish herself for trying to save Vision. That seems a little odd, but that's what she's doing. And then, she tells the kids, "Oh, I'm just resting my eyes." And there's nothing more adult than telling someone that you're just resting your eyes. You don't do that when you're young. When you become older and an adult, you say, "Oh, no, I'm just resting my eyes." My grandma used to say that a lot. My dad said that a lot. So totally get that. Then from there, she throws the kids go downstairs. She throws the blanket back, and she's still wearing her comic Halloween costume, which I thought was pretty fascinating too. So she gets up, gets dressed, goes downstairs, and you see that the world around her is starting to get out of control. Things are changing. She gets almond milk out of the fridge. It changes to regular milk, and it's got a picture of a missing kid on the back. And I didn't get a chance to look at it close enough to see if the missing kid is anything special, but there's a missing kid, so it's that kind of milk carton. And then it turns into an old style milk bottle. And of course, her first reaction is to sniff to see if the milk's gone sour, which I thought was appropriate. There's a radio going on in the background, and you can't really tell what it's saying if you're just listening, but if you have the captions on, at one point, the guy talks about how it's nice to see the kids once a year. Now, I don't know if he meant that to see them out trick-or-treating once a year, or if that's the only time they see the kids is that one time a year. Also, the radio station's name is WNDA. So they're really pushing the Wanda thing, that this is Wanda, not WandaVision at this point. I'm going to go ahead and turn off that spoilers because you probably already know by now. So, okay. As we continue on, the next thing we get is Vision waking up. Is it Vision? Yeah. Oh, we pan outside the barrier and we go to Hayward, and he's looking at, and one of his people is like, "We're lucky she put the brakes on," and he's like, "Yeah, I feel lucky." And it looks like he's gonna do a full out assault on the barrier. So that's, yeah. But when they show the shape of it, it is definitely got edges to it, which I thought was interesting. It's not round or anything like that. You can see actual geometrical shapes, I don't even know if it's actually a hex, but there are angles to it, almost like a honeycomb dome or something. I thought that was interesting too. When we go back, the kids, Wanda asks if they've seen the Vision. They don't. And they ask if they can go look for him. And she's like, "Hey, if your dad doesn't want to be here, I can't make him." And it's like, no, that is pretty accurate, is that you don't have the ability to make him, which is weird because she controls everything else in that space. So him and the kids are the only ones she doesn't control. And you get the feeling that she's definitely starting to lose it. She's being a little too serious with them about, a little too open about that, and how she's trying to think that nothing matters, and how doesn't have the ability to even care. And so she's starting to lose it. And when she does the aside thing, the camera guy asks if she thinks this is what she deserves, and her response is, "You're not supposed to talk." So. Then we switch to Monica and Jimmy, who've gotten away safely, and Jimmy's checking his email and finds out that Darcy sent him the information on Operation Cataracts, and they now find out that Vision is actually that Hayward is trying to build a new version of the Vision. That's what he was doing. He was experimenting, and that's why he's tracking the Vision and why he wants to shut Wanda down. So that's exactly what we thought it was going to be. That Hayward isn't necessarily in league with whatever's going on with the Hex. He's in league with his own, trying to, he's doing corrupt bureaucrat things, which is what we expected. But it's nice to see that come to, finally be cleared up. We also find out I don't know if we find out who Monica's engineer guy is, because it doesn't make sense. She shows up and they've got this basically deep space rover, this, that you drop on another planet, ready for her, that they pull out of a truck. And she said, the Major Goodner is the woman that she runs into or meets, and says, "Well, I hope we got the specs right." And she's like, she's perfect." Well, it's only been a week. There's no way they built that from scratch in a week. And she was in there for a couple of days, so it's only been a couple of days that they would have to build that. And it's even referred to as one of our most high-tech land or lunar rovers. So it's something they already had built. Now, maybe they put some added shielding on it or something, but I don't get the impression that Goodner is the engineer. So who's the engineer? Are we going to meet them later? Maybe they did the work and then had it sent out. I don't know. I don't think we actually met the engineer. So I know some fans are going to be disappointed that we didn't. I know there was big speculation, so I don't necessarily think that we're done with that yet. We may not meet them till the end. It may just be a setup that'll get dealt with later. Don't know. But it didn't get resolved here. Unless Goodner is something more, I don't think that got resolved. Vision wakes up out in the field and finds himself in the carnival area, and one of the 8 former agents is now the strong man and says, "Oh, you're here, good, and you're already dressed as a clown, great, so come on, you got to practice your act with the escape artist." And the escape artist is Darcy, who's chained up in front of a tractor or something, and she ends up snapping out of it. And Vision tries to talk to her like, "Look, we made this connection last night. We made eye contact. You were trying to help me." And Darcy's like, "I don't know what you are. This is kind of freaky creeper." And so he keeps trying, and eventually he keeps pushing about how, that she works with this group, monitoring the hex and all that. And she finally says, "Look, fine, I'll go out with you, but I'm ordering the lobster," which I thought was a funny line, just out of the blue. But he finally snaps her out of it, and they hop into a funnel truck and take off after she punches the strongman, which he deserved to be. He was kind of the jerk earlier, so he's been building up to being punched by Darcy. So nice to see that finally happen. And then they take off in the funnel truck. Agnes goes over and takes the kids from Wanda to give her a break, some time on her own. And it's obviously now a bigger picture moment, but Billy and Tommy are worried about leaving, and Billy's like, "No, we need to stay here and take care of Mom." So Billy is picking up on that there's something wrong, but the kids go with Agnes anyway. And that's when things really start going out of control. The walls start changing, the TV starts changing, the dining room table keeps changing, and it's obvious that Wanda is not in control of it anymore. And that's when we get the next commercial, which actually I saw someone predict that it was going to be, with it being a modern day commercial, that it would be a medication commercial. And of course, it's a medication commercial for antidepressants called Nexus, which I thought was interesting because there's been some speculation that this might be a nexus point. I believe that's what they refer to the jump points going through space and how they're all hexagon shaped. So if this is a nexus point, then that may have something to do with being able to go to multiple. I think the word nexus is going to be important. Exactly how yet, we have to wait and see, but the nexus point is going to be important. So it's Nexus, and there's some great lines in there about, if your doctor says it's okay for you to move on, and when the world doesn't revolve around you, or maybe it does, there's some good lines in that one. It was a good commercial, but it definitely wasn't as creepy as last week with the Yo Magic commercial, which, yeah, that one still creeps me out. There we okay, so there Monica hops into the vehicle and tries to drive into the barrier, And Goodner is like, oh, yeah, it's going to work. She's just going to pass right through. And Jimmy's like, oh, okay. And she gets in there, gets all suited up and drives in and hits the wall. And it's pushing back against her to the point where when she finally, it starts tipping it up like she might drive up the side of it almost. And then you realize that it's starting to shift it. It's not, Goodner says it's disintegrating, but Jimmy's the one that realizes, no, it's changing it. And the barrier is doing what it does. It's making it a modern equivalent. So I guess that little Rover truck they made is not Modern Family era appropriate. But as it's changing it into a minivan, Monica hops out and it throws the thing. And then it's half turned in and it's half converted and half not, which is kind of fascinating looking. And Jimmy and them are rushing over to him and have to dive out of the way of the truck. And then Monica decides she's just going to go in on her own and tosses the helmet aside and pushes her way through. And as she's doing it, she's hearing voices, and it's her mom, and it's Captain Marvel, and it's Nick Fury, and all of these lines. And I don't know how many of the lines are actually from Captain Marvel or how many are new. There was a line about her flying up halfway to meet her, and Nick Fury saying, unless you learn to glow like Carol, you're not. And that's, of course, this is the origin story of this character, Monica getting superpowers. And when she comes out, her eyes are like blue, and she's seeing on a different visual spectrum. And that's one of her potential names, as either spectrum, photon, pulsar. I know she's used a bunch of names by now, so it'll be interesting if they actually get her to pick one. But as she pushes through, she comes through, she sees differently, and then it adjusts, and she takes off the spacesuit, and her costume underneath looks like her Captain Marvel costume from the comics, or her costume from the comic books. So, and then she races off into the city, and then we go out to spend some time with Billy and Tommy at Agnes's house, and Billy's petting Mr. Senor Scratchy, and he talks about how he likes it there because it's quiet. And he looks at Agnes and says, "You're quiet on the inside." And again, I think that's going with the whole idea that Billy can hear the internal cries of the people of the town, and around Agnes, who isn't like that. At least we find out that's why he likes her, because she's quiet. He doesn't hear the internal screaming. Then we go to Vision, who him and Darcy are driving through the outskirts, trying to head into town, and they keep getting stopped. Red lights, a bunch of red lights. It's raining, which it never rains in Westview. Suddenly there's construction comes out right in front of them, and then there's a trail of kids coming out. There's all these roadblocks trying to keep them from getting back home. And at the same time, Darcy is filling him in on his history and having to explain that he's died twice. And the first time he died, Wanda killed him, but she did so because he told him to. And then Thanos turned it back and killed him again. And it's all a lot for him to take in, but he's still trying to figure out why he doesn't remember any of it. And he's accepting the fact that he's part, he started off as an AI Jarvis, and then the body is Ultrons and all this stuff. And it's a lot to take in, but then they do cutaways with him as he's talking, and eventually he kind of realizes that this is all ridiculous, and he pulls off the microphone, and then we cut back to out of the cutaway, and he just phases through the roof of the truck and flies back. While all this is going on, Monica gets to the house and confronts Wanda and tries to tell her, look, Hayward was doing all this stuff, and Wanda doesn't want to hear any of it, and basically pushes her out of the house and takes her up in the air and tries to throw her into the ground. And when she throws in the ground, Monica uses her powers to stop her. And you see Wanda hesitate for a second. And then Monica pushes the whole idea about, look, I understand where you're coming from. Hayward is the bad guy here. Don't let him make you into the villain. And Wanda's like, maybe I am the villain already. And as she's talking about all this, she's talking about how I've lost my mom, or she doesn't say she lost her mom, but she says, I already lost the person I care about. I don't know how I'm going to, get past it, but this is my truth. I'm not even trying anymore, or trying to, fix it. So Monica is getting very open, and it looks like she's starting to break through. And that's when Agnes looks out the window, sees what's going on, rushes over and basically drags Wanda away and breaks up the idea, which is where things get really interesting, because she takes her back to her house and sits her down and offers her a cup of tea. And Wanda's looking around. She goes, wait, where are the twins? And Agnes, oh, they're just playing in the basement. Well, Wanda decides to go down. And as she's going down this basement, first thing, it's the biggest basement I've ever seen in my life. Second, it's the creepiest basement I've ever seen in my life, too. And it's got all this stuff growing on the sides. And she goes down and ends up in this little ritual room. And there's a book on an altar. And I don't know if that's the Darkhold or what book that is. I have to do a little digging to find out for sure. But it's definitely a creepy Necronomicon Darkhold style book. And then Agnes walks in holding Mr. Scratchy, or Senor Scratchy, who I totally expected to transform into a cat. That would have made a lot of sense. But she's petting the cat and says, oh, you didn't think you were the only one in town with magic, and does a little wave of her arm, and this purple light closes the door, and she introduces herself as Agatha Harkness, which is one of the least surprising reveals for most comic book people, because we all expected it with the name Agnes, Agatha Harkness, being crunched down. So that didn't surprise anybody. But then we get this montage set to a Munsters-style theme of Agatha all along. And it just shows that all the weird stuff that had been happening was Agatha all along. They show her showing up for the first time and doing stuff at the talent show, and that she helped bring Pietro forward, all this stuff. And then at the very last line, we see her standing there with Sparky wrapped in the blanket, and she goes, and I killed Sparky too. And that's when the credits hit. And first thing, we all knew she killed Sparky. I mean, that was pretty scarily obvious. And just, she's not a good person. She killed the dog. But then there's a mid-credit scene. So if you've watched this and you didn't watch through the credits, you need to go back and watch through the credits, because it's a short scene. But as they're going through, and Monica gets over to Agnes's house, and she's looking through the house, looking through the windows and stuff, and then she sees the basement doors, and she opens the basement to go in, and then suddenly Pietro's standing beside her and says, Snooper's gonna snoop. Cut to black. So that was an interesting episode. We all knew, well, okay, we didn't all know. There was a good chance we all thought that Agatha Harkness was Agnes. Not a surprise. We all knew that she had something going on. Turns out she was faking it with Vision, with the whole on the edge of town. She was just sitting out there waiting. And I mean, it looks pretty obvious that the whole setup was to get the kids and to, get Vision to go try to get out and to distract Wanda so they could take the kids once they. So it looks like the whole plot was to get Wanda in there, get her to have the kids. Once the kids were born and raised up, then take the kids away. All while messing with Wanda's mental state, I guess. So, yeah. Well done. Well done. Now that brings up a lot of questions. I mean, there's some references to fake Pietro at one point. the kids ask about something that he said, and Wanda even says, "That man's not your uncle." And they're like, well, who is he? And it's like, well, mommy doesn't have all the answers. I know you're looking to me for the answers. I don't have all the answers. So they're all accepting that Pietro's not Pietro. Is he just a simulation? Is he another character who is pretending to be Pietro? That's kind of where I lead to. Is he Ralph? Agatha's, the never seen husband before. I mean, he's referred to in this episode too, how Ralph says, "I sugarcoat everything," so he's still being referred to, but is Evan Peters playing Ralph? And if so, who is Ralph? Is Ralph Nightmare? Is he Mephisto? That's pretty interesting. I don't know on that one still. I could see him playing Nightmare. I totally could. But there's still the issue of the big cameo. And I kind of thought the big cameo would be a famous person playing Mephisto or Nightmare, and that would be the big bad for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but don't know now. It's kind of all over the place. They pushed the whole Wanda alone thing in the credits, and Wanda, keeping Vision away. The fact that the name Vision only shows up in the opening credits at the very end, I thought was interesting. Darcy refers to the show as WandaVision, which seemed very meta to me. She says, "I've been watching WandaVision all week," and giving us the time frame that it's been about a week. And she tells Vision that you two really do love each other and you belong together, which I thought was kind of fascinating. Yeah, there's a lot going on here, a lot to take in. The ending is kind of like a turbo boost in a sense. You're sitting there and you're watching it and you're like, oh, this is getting creepy. Why are we going down to the basement? And then suddenly you get this musical montage that it just suddenly, it's like hyper fast, row, and then we're done. And then the extra little blip of, Evan Peters at the end with Monica. So there were some highs and some lows in the episode. I think not showing us who the engineer is going to upset some people. The reveal, Agnes's reveal, a lot of people were guessing that. It was pretty obvious, I think, to anybody who read comics. Not obvious because you have no frame of reference for it if you don't read comics. But wow. And a lot of people, there was a lot of speculation online that we'd get who the engineer is and also that the episode would be an hour long. Now, I don't know why the hour long thing, because in an interview, the director, Matt Shackman, said that it was about 6 hours of television. And going into this episode, there would have been, if you took the amount of time that had been shown and subtracted from 6, there would have been about 2 hours and 40 minutes left. And we got a 38-minute episode. So why people were speculating that the last 3 episodes would all be an hour long, I don't know. There's still supposedly about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours now left. And I'm sure Shackman was rounding. He wasn't exact. So let's say there's 2 hours left. So if we get a 2 hour, two 1 hour episodes, great. If it's another 35, 40-minute episode and then an extended last episode, that would be even awesome too. But it doesn't matter. They're telling the story. So as long as they tell the story, that's what I care about. But I know some people are disappointed it wasn't an hour-long episode. I know people are disappointed that the engineer wasn't Reed Richards or wasn't Adam Brashear or a Skrull or Justin Hammer or about a dozen other interesting characters that have popped up. But I don't think we've necessarily met the engineer yet. So that's still a chance. They'll save that to the end. maybe that's the big cameo. When we finally do meet him, it's somebody huge. Don't know. I thought the reveal of Agnes was well done, though. I loved the little song. It was very Munsters-like. And I loved the use of the cutaways with both, Agnes got a cutaway, Darcy got a cutaway, Vision got a cutaway, and Wanda. Which is weird because the kids didn't, where they did in the Malcolm in the Middle version. So I thought that was interesting. But don't know where the kids went. I think that's going to be key. And that book is going to be interesting. I got to do a little research to find out what that book is. I know Wanda's had a lot of connections to characters like that. Chthon would be another one. In the comics, Chthon is the first person to turn Wanda evil, and there's a book involved with that. I believe he's the one that created the Darkhold. So could that be the Darkhold? Possibly. We've seen the Darkhold before in live action on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the whole Ghost Rider season. The problem with that, though, is that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't necessarily canon anymore. So we could get a whole new Darkhold. That would be interesting. I don't know where this is going anymore. There's someone every time I do one of these pops up and it says, it's a waste of time to speculate. And, well, it is, because we don't know. As a writer, I can make guesses. As a fan, I can make guesses. And as a comic reader, I can make guesses, and I put those things together. But it's for fun. I mean, I don't expect to actually get it right. I and a bunch of people have been saying since day one that Agnes killed Sparky. And it seems absolutely to be the case. Or she admits it now. So we got that one right. What's going to happen next? I don't know. I might have to just take that one as a win and accept that the rest is just going to be crazy. But, all right. So we got 2 episodes left. We got to find out if Agnes is truly the big bad, if she's working for somebody, and what the purpose is. I mean, it does seem obvious. The whole thing has to do with getting the kids. One thing I thought, the mailman guy is still weird. I don't understand why he's weird, but this time he's no longer a U.S. mailman. He's a delivery guy, a delivery service, and it's Presto, which has always been considered kind of like a magic Presto Changeo, or, so I thought that one was kind of funny. We haven't seen Dottie in a long time. You notice that? We haven't seen Dottie since the pregnancy episode, and we only saw her for a few minutes there. So for someone who's supposed to be running the town, she hasn't been around since episodes 2 or 3. And then she's never been on the board at all. There's no board anymore. I wonder what the board got turned into at the carnival. All right. I think that's going to do it for this one. I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts on the episode are. Please comment below. Let me know what you think. Where you think this might go. We'll be back on Sunday night with Pop Go the Writers, and we'll be talking about the last 2 episodes, get a little more in depth, and we'll see how that goes from there. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great evening and good weekend, and we'll talk soon. Please hit the like, subscribe buttons, depending on which service you're watching this on. That would be helpful a lot to me, because growing this channel is important to me, and I love doing this stuff. I love talking about this stuff. I love getting the feedback, but the likes and subscribes are going to help me be able to build this channel. So I would appreciate that. And if you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification, will let you know whenever I put up a new video. I have a few more planned that'll be coming up. So please do that. And everybody take care.